So I want to talk about, when, thinking about what I was saying about um, logically thinking about possibilities and preventing harm, and when it's not possible to completely prevent harm, reducing harm. All right, and 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 then I almost said I said it kind of like it's separate. Noticing when something is done and thinking what is next. What is the impact going to be, and what could be next. So, do those things kind of fit together? I mean, we know it's bad. We know it's bad, and what are different possibilities? You know, that might or might not have anything to do with directly with something that has been done or is being done. What are different possibilities when there's tyranny, when there is an intention of doing harm? Also, what are possibilities when something is done? When something's done, what could happen? All right, so I don't know. Did I need to think about that more before I talked about it? I just think about the importance of, you know, knowing it is only gonna keep getting worse until we stop it. All right, so, and it's important for people to stay alive. It's important for people to stay alive. I think about when a person might need to overcome anxiety to think about possibilities. So maybe a person has so much anxiety, or there also is the possibility the person's just never really been put through certain kinds of hell. So there's that, but also I think maybe anxiety can kind of prevent a person from wanting to think, from wanting to think about possibilities. And there are ways that people try to avoid anxiety sometimes, but it can be good to think about it. All right. And now, really, this is, I'm going to say this is a little bit hard to talk about, but what I sat down to talk about is overcoming enough anxiety to think clearly about possibilities. All right. And am I being too vague when I say that? I just think, is this kind of scatter of possibilities? This could happen, this could happen, this could happen in the big picture. And then these things could happen on a personal level for people. And some people say, I don't know that person and I don't care. Well, that's a problem for that person. I'm going to say, when a person thinks like that, that's part of the problem in the big picture. So overcoming anxiety. I think about a person might have anxiety about what's going on, but not really put it into words. There might be symptoms in the body like a stomach ache, nausea, things like that. A person, just might avoid looking at things, might avoid thinking about things. And what does that do? A person might be putting themselves in a more vulnerable position like that. Um, it's just, the avoidance of possibility. It's not helpful. I think about, if I want to talk about someone teaching, all right, or working in some way with students, a student gets taken. That student is held for however long. Maybe that student is even, deported. I mean, but, thinking about, all right, the student is taken. It's possible no one knows how long that student is going to be there. People might not know what is happening to that person. And this could be a young, I would say any age, because even really young children have been taken. All right, so I know there are educators who have worked to get things in place, but I'm kind of guessing there's a certain amount of avoidance too, thinking about that. That's just an easy thing for me to think about, as far as when you have contact with people that might be vulnerable. If a person is not thinking about that possibility and it happens, what's going to happen to that person that's not thinking about the possibility? Do I want to talk about mental health? Do I want to talk about physical health? I mean, a person needs to be thinking it's responsible. A person needs to be thinking about what could happen to my students? And yeah, my students matter, and maybe some people don't care. Well, then a person like that, why are they working with students? Why is a person in any position working with people at all when they don't care? So when anxiety is like an affective barrier, I don't want to think about it. That's too scary. Well, how do you help a person overcome enough of that to think about it? And then when a person can overcome enough of that anxiety, then they can start to get plans in place, for self or others. So yeah, this could happen. Is there anything I can do specifically? Do I know of things that I can do? If I don't, all right, well, mentally I am preparing myself, and I'm preparing myself to respond in whatever way I can respond. And I might not be able to do anything. Well, then what? All right, so, yeah, I kind of, is it not possible that anxiety is kind of keeping people from wanting to think about what could happen? And again, I mean, so many people have already experienced extreme harm. And if it's a democracy, I mean, are people supposed to care? Isn't that part of what that is? So I don't know, maybe it's something that some people learn and some people don't. But anyhow, yeah, so shit has hit the fan. Shit has been hitting the fan for a while. There's always some shit hitting the fan, but shit has hit the fan, and it's hit it more and more. There continue to be threats. Actions continue to be taken. What do we need to be thinking about? What I think about is one of the things, thinking about someone that doesn't care and doesn't want to think too far, is, well, eventually that could end up on that person's own doorstep, and they might not even know when. So, and then is that person really going to like it when that happens, if it does? Do they think that they're insulated somehow? That's not me. I don't have the same circumstances, and I can't be touched by that. Well, emotionally, I really think, we're human. I guess over time people learn to not care, but we're human. So emotionally people are affected. Emotions affect the body, the person's physical health. But when people are not preparing, okay, so preparing for the worst, but also doing everything possible to prevent the worst? If we do everything possible to prevent the worst, can't we prevent it? Though again, on a personal level, there are people who've been harmed so badly. Did that prevent the worst for them? Well, if they're still alive, then people are still alive. There can be a whole lot of trauma. It can take a while to feel. A person could be in shock for a few years, and a person might not be safe speaking out. So yeah, I guess maybe a lot of people are thinking about these things, about those dynamics of silencing, and things like that. But I just think if we were motivated enough, sort of as a whole, then it wouldn't have happened in the first place, maybe. But maybe there's just enough that we take for granted. And yeah, there's opportunity here, and I'm going to do this, and I don't have to worry about anything. Well, the reality is that, yeah, we always have to be guarding against tyranny. If that's one way to put it. And again, how do you help someone if a person has blocks, from anxiety? I don't want to think about it. How do you help a person, reduce anxiety enough, not with substances, but reducing anxiety enough to, all right, let's think about this. What's possible? And let's think about ways to prevent those possibilities, because those aren't good possibilities. If it's not possible to prevent those possibilities, what is going to reduce harm? What needs to be gotten in place to prevent the worst harm? All right. Reducing an affective filter anxiety, and also getting people to care when they don't. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I don't know those people. That's not my problem. It's not going to be that bad. I think there must be plenty of people that kind of are in that place. And I think some of us have been through enough that kind of, when something actually does happen, to sort of shake that person out of that. I mean, it can be hard to be sympathetic. All right, well, I mean, you know, you didn't care. You didn't care. And yeah, of course, you know, I mean, you're human, but you didn't care. And, I mean, have you learned anything? I mean, I don't know. I think we need some first aid kits, you know, all kinds of different first aid kits, different sizes, you know. We get creative with that. But anyhow, yeah. So just thought I'd talk about that for a few minutes. And yeah, you know, again, it's not going to end until we put an end to it. And we always have to be thinking about possibilities, about preventing harm. And again, if we can't prevent it completely, reducing it. And yeah, so yeah, happy Tuesday night.